This is my first YouTube live, so I have no idea how this is gonna go, but I will just share what I've been up to. So I created this channel originally as a tech tutorial channel where I basically, first comment ever, thank you Jesse. I created this channel as a way to share my design experience. I have vast experience with brand design as well as digital product design. Hi! And thank you. And so I thought I would come on YouTube Live and test it out. I've never done this before, so you are early. You are here very, very much first. And I have been working on building a business for the past year and a half where I am self-funded. So I had to actually relocate. I was actually in New York City, and the cost of living, as everyone knows, is famously expensive. So I actually relocated in order to lower my cost of living, and now I'm able to fund this app project where you're subscribed, yay! And now I'm on this journey of being a tech founder. I know that still doesn't sound normal to me, like I haven't internalized that, but that is, I'm a tech founder. I think we need more examples of women-led tech companies. And now that we have introduced AI, I've been able to successfully learn and build without necessarily knowing how to code. And so I'm on a mission to share my story to let people know that they can do it too. And at the very least, just feel inspired for whatever your idea might be. So as of today, I have launched my app so people can actually use it. It's bare bones. It's a secondhand fashion e-commerce platform. I'm very passionate about secondhand, whether that's home decor, fashion, what have you. I am just very interested in fashion personally, and I think that will be a great, it just feels like a good business. It feels like contributing something good to the world. And I want to share more transparently about how I have been building this business so you can hopefully learn from it as well, because we're all learning together. This is all new. Thank you for the compliments. Yes, so today I just spontaneously came on this YouTube Live, but today I thought I'd share that I am currently wireframing a bunch of new UI. So I launched the app with the core UI, and now I am, since I have a background in product design, I'm now not only the designer, but now also the developer and the founder. So one woman show over here. And now we are basically going to start, I feel like, so this is my question to you. If you're in the chat right now, are you interested in entrepreneurship? Are you interested in coding, design? Just curious about this random live you stumbled upon? I'm just curious. I know people have expressed interest in seeing more design tutorials. And I also have now had people want me to review their GitHubs. So basically coding consulting, I guess. I don't know what else to call that. Design, okay, yes. Would it be useful to have ability to design apps but don't want to get bogged down in the coding itself? Same. So currently I'm not using any of the fully automated AI build platforms like Base 44, N8, and I am currently using Claude AI to code. I personally found that Claude AI is the best for coding because it truly feels like I can give it a prompt and it will give me code that more or less doesn't need heavy editing. So I don't know, I personally, I don't consider myself a coder. What I found helpful personally to get more comfortable, at least reading code, I think it's important. I think you don't necessarily have to be a coder to build. Speaking from my perspective, I don't consider myself a coder, but I definitely did a round of online tutorials that were free just to learn the basics of coding. So it helped me be equipped with these, outputs from AI to be able to at least read the code. That would be my advice. I used a couple of tutorials, mostly on YouTube. What helped me personally was knowing the type of project I wanted to create, which was a secondhand e-commerce platform. I was pretty particular. And then I went to YouTube to search what tutorials existed that were basically a full front, like beginning to end project. So I was able to do tutorials that were code-based, but you basically followed the steps in the tutorial line by line. And that gave me confidence to be like, okay, this is how to build the thing. And then I also went to Harvard Online. This is the thing, Harvard has free courses online. That's amazing. That's amazing. So I did a free computer science course with Harvard Online. And then I felt pretty confident that I could at least read code and understand it. And then that's when I started leveraging these chat bots like Claude and ChatGPT in order to generate code. So I basically am creating a e-commerce platform, a secondhand platform, like think of eBay, Depop, Mercari, The Real. That's what my platform is. So I'm not actually making product. I am curating secondhand fashion. That's what my platform does at its core. There are so many free online resources. We truly are living in a time where it has never been more accessible to learn whatever it is we dream of. There's also, I've been trying to learn more about AI agents and things like that. And I don't even have to buy books anymore. There are just free PDFs online to read. It can be overwhelming how many resources there are, but how amazing is it that if we have a project in mind or an idea, that we can just learn about it today. We used to have to go to a library. We used to have to, wait for someone to return a book and get our turn. It's truly an amazing time to become an entrepreneur or learn whatever it is you're trying to learn. I know the job market is so fragile and tumultuous right now. It's like a roller coaster, and I'm a huge advocate of trying to build your own, I don't know what to call it, asset. I'm not saying, go invest in stocks. I mean, sure, if you want to, but what I mean is building something that is truly your own, that solves a problem. So I think that's a better, safer bet than trying to just keep a job in this very interesting time where lots of things are being automated. And then there's just an abundance of knowledge and resources where we now have the tools to learn whatever it is that we want to learn. And I want to try and contribute to the culture of learning and tutorials, and with all of my design and product design and now founder knowledge, I'm hoping to continue talking about my story, sharing it with you so I can share and let you know that it's possible to really just go after whatever it is you're passionate about. I happen to be passionate about secondhand clothing and fashion, but whatever you're passionate about, there's just so many resources. The courses you took/take, are they just basic or trial? And then if you want more, you have to pay, or is it all free? So I took completely free tutorials. There was no trial, there was no subscription. There's so many, if I'm not sure what you're looking for in particular, if it's coding or design related, I found YouTube to be a tremendous resource. Not only do YouTubers post in-depth tutorials, they also post timely tutorials. So there's constantly new tutorials. So I just did a completely free coding project where I was tangibly coding alongside the tutorial. I found it very helpful not just to watch, not passively watch tutorials, but choose a tutorial that had a specific project from beginning to end. So there was an end result. I found that very helpful in my, initial learning phase of how to code, or how to at least read code. It's way less intimidating when you find a project. And also Harvard Online, completely free. There's no subscription, there's no trial, there's no gimmicks. It's completely free. The value is in purpose, so building your own thing is better than a job. Absolutely, absolutely. I know it can be scary that we're all, uncertain about losing our jobs, but I joke that a lot of us aren't even fulfilled by our jobs. When we're working for these other concentrated business entities, we kind of find like, oh, not really passionate about this. So that's another great point, Jessie, that when you build your own thing, you're actually interested in what you're building. I mean, I would hope so. I would hope you're, choosing something you're truly passionate about. And, even, I think a lot of people don't even know what they're passionate about sometimes. I know for me, this idea, my business idea, I would say I have been dreaming about it for years. Since at least 2017, I have had this very specific idea in mind. And I actually didn't act on it until, 2 years ago. So if you have something in the back of your head, listen to that little voice in your head. I haven't posted a tutorial in a while. My initial tutorial was more on the design side, but I've pretty much learned way more skills beyond just design. Maybe if I share, it'll spark some conversation. I've learned how to code the front end, so visually the UI interface that you see when you go to a website. I've also learned how to code algorithms. So this is funny. I was creating algorithms and I didn't know what I was creating was an algorithm. That's how serendipitous this whole journey has felt. Just truly going after whatever interests you leads to one thing, leads to the next thing, and it's a daily thing. I just love the mindset of 1%. Like every day is 1% towards your idea, towards your goal, towards learning something. And I think that mental framework has really helped me just relax and be patient with the process of learning a new skill. I know it can be frustrating to learn a new skill because when you're a beginner, it's like a little overwhelming. So personally, what I find is that if I can break down, a goal or an interest into the most basic step, that helps me feel less overwhelmed, and just helps me start something. For example, with the, when I was like, oh, I want to build an e-commerce platform, that's such a big idea. Being a person who has never coded, has never built anything like that, and now being on the other side, it's a mindset at the end of the day. I know everyone says it's mindset, but you really have to be patient with yourself and just know that every single day is a new opportunity to learn, to, make, try things out, and just give yourself some grace, because I know learning new things is a little overwhelming. Oh, thank you. You think I'm doing a good job? Okay. Yes, 1% improvement. What is the next step for my journey? So I currently, with my company, I guess I don't know what to call it, my e-commerce platform, I have released the most basic version where, people can sign up for an account, People can shop existing items, secondhand fashion items. And now I'm still self-funded, and I'm trying to, obviously generate income elsewhere while I build this project. So again, giving myself grace, knowing that this is a long-term project. It's not gonna be an overnight flip of a switch thing. So just pacing myself and knowing that every day I've been reflecting on what direction to go next. I'm basically extending the capabilities of my project right now because I feel very comfortable that I got the core functionality, baked in. I feel very good. I've been having people use my app for about almost 2 months now, and there's been almost no bugs. I mean, I have figured out the back end and made sure that my website is always stable. I've made sure, it's secure. And now I feel confident that I have this foundation. And so now I am building more new features, and I'm in the design phase, which is exciting. I love the design phase because it's just where you get to dream up ideas. So I'm using Figma to just mock up wireframes. Not really, I'm not putting pressure on myself to make these pixel perfect mock-ups. I'm literally just dragging and dropping and writing down ideas and letting myself flow through different ideas, essentially. Do I have knowledge on the company structure, tax side of things? I'm glad you asked that. So I have filed for a trademark, and let me tell you, I know that people always say start before you're ready. I think you should start figuring out your brand name and trademark before you're ready, because the process has been taking a long time. I actually I came up with a brand name, secured the domain on socials and the actual web URL. That was the first step. And I did a casual check to see if the name was already trademarked, and it wasn't. Knowing that I had a name, that was the one step, and then being able to trademark it, and I also registered it as an LLC. Yes, and I was able to register it as a business in Delaware as a remote filing. And why did I choose Delaware? It's because, well, for my specific business, I'm not tied to an actual physical geolocation, and Delaware just has a court system that expedites business dealings that, is basic, paperwork. And so they actually have services based in Delaware that will help you with the filing, and you just pay a fee, and they essentially work with the local government to, send over paperwork. And so it's very much like a clean, I don't have to worry about it. Trademark website is challenging, just to that. I agree. The trademark website is, it's very basic UI, I will say. And it's now been, I would say 6 months, 5 months since I originally filed for my trademark, and it's still processing. So try and get on that. If you have a business name idea, get on that sooner than later, because it's just a formality that takes forever to process. Yeah, so Delaware, it's also, if I were to take on investment later, Delaware has, again, a court system and a way to, convert my business to a different business entity if I were to take on investment. So if your business is not geolocation specific like mine's an online website, so Delaware made sense. It's where all of the big companies have been founded, like Facebook, Snapchat, etc. I'm not into the fashion side, but I am into how you started. Gathering pieces can be just as important. I will look into Harvard free online courses. Yes, absolutely. A lot of the higher institutions are now offering lower tuition dependent on a family's household income, which is great. And then places like Harvard, you can pretend you went to Harvard, but it's just online for free. It's amazing. So I'm glad you're gonna check that out. Delaware is a tax haven state. That's why companies set up tax homes in Delaware. Yeah, so that's another interesting point, is that just because you formulate your company registration in Delaware, you don't actually have to pay Delaware taxes. And I know it varies state by state. For example, I looked into establishing the business in New York, but they had a very, like, a more, they had a higher fee, if I remember, and there was some other caveat to registering the business in Delaware. It just seemed less, like there was less friction, and there were so many businesses whose sole focus is on registering businesses in Delaware, and so I used one of those. I would also recommend getting a remote address, so not your actual home address. I'm subscribed to a remote address where I can receive packages. I can actually name my business address on all the paperwork, so I feel like I have more privacy, and it just helps me separate my personal life from my business entity. So that was also, I think, an important step, and you can get a remote address like same day. It's not like it's just like you sign up and pay a fee. And I found that helpful, because another thing people don't mention is when you are registering a business, all of your information that you use to sign up becomes public. I think that's very important, especially as a woman, to be careful about what personal information is out there. So yeah, having a private address, having a separate phone number, all of that has been, and a separate email, all of that has been super helpful, not only in organization, but also just privacy. Because I've actually had my business address receive spam, or I actually had a company impersonating the trademark office demanding money from me for fees. So that was interesting. And I was able to, you know, mentally it's nice to have all of that in a different, literally different mailbox. So do I mean like a PO box? So it's not a PO box. You can get a PO box, but I chose a remote address because I can actually use that for business filings. I think one part of the business filings didn't allow me to use the address, but my personal home address was kept private, so that was okay. But for all other communication things, I used what's called a remote address. And so what differentiates it from a PO box is that, I mean, obviously it's like a real address. I have like a street name, suite name, and I can receive packages and, you know, mail, and there's actually people who manage the mail for me. So at a PO box, your mail isn't managed. You just receive whatever. With the service I use, there's actually people who physically manage the mail. So I can be on vacation or I can be traveling, and then I can actually remotely check my mail inbox because they catalog and show everything that I'm receiving. And I can remotely say, okay, can you forward it to this vacation address that I'm at? Or can you forward the mail to my home address? And so there's actually a lot of benefits to having a business address because you can actually divert and sort mail. Or just like if it's spam, just tell them to delete it, throw it away. You can also choose what state the remote address is in. So it doesn't necessarily have to be local to you, but it's probably convenient if you're, you know, if your business wants packages to have it be local to you. I found that really helpful. And also some of these remote business addresses have printing services. Mine has printing services, and it also has co-working space. So that's fun perk as well. These are really great questions. Thank you for asking all these amazing questions. That's the thing, starting a business isn't scary. It's just like a lot of little steps, but there's all these services. Their full-time job is to help businesses and start businesses. So it's really just, you know, paying a fee, filling out forms online, and you're kind of on your way. Do I plan on scaling up to compete with the Macars, etc.? So obviously the vision is big, okay? Go big or go home. And I know, like, I've been getting really excited because I'm coming up with UI patterns that no other secondhand platform is currently doing. And I have confidence that I can actually build the UI, so that's been exciting. So I feel like my app truly would be adding a new experience to the market. So I feel like that could be competitive, seen as competitive. You know, I would entertain the idea of scaling up if it becomes a big project, but I'm not putting, you know, I'm trying to self-fund as much as I can, so I'm not beholden to any investors that might rush timelines, or, you know, I'm pacing myself as much as I can because I find it valuable to slow down and really plan out the horizon, you know, long term, and not be caught up in, you know, rushing anything. So if it scales, that would be great. My mindset right now is just to lay a really good foundation. I keep having that mindset. If I just focus on the baseline, adding little components later, you know, hiring someone later, one person at a time, seems more manageable than, you know, getting a bunch of investment and like hiring a bunch of people. Like, that is kind of, yeah, I know a lot of people go that route, but I've worked at startups and I've seen that dynamic and know that that's not the dynamic I'm necessarily seeking out, at least as I'm starting out. And, you know, being a designer, I'm more just personally invested in the actual creation of the app. To me, it truly feels like creating a little mini universe, and it's very fun that way. Don't be sorry for picking my brain. I love this. I love this. That was your second question. What sets me apart? Sounds like you have that. Yeah, so I also try not to put too much pressure on being so different. I think design is very much, we're gonna see as coding and software becomes more democratized and more people like me and you can just code things like that. I think design is going to be, we're gonna free ourselves up to design more, to anticipate more what a customer wants, you know, and UI and user interactions are going to be the key, differentiator, the key draw for people to use and experience whatever it is you're putting out into the world. And, you know, people always say famously that Apple was a design company, you know, and it's true. I've worked with Apple, and design is always the first thought whenever doing something, even when they're branding things internally, design is at the forefront. And so I think people getting comfortable with not only how their app functions, but how it looks. I think they go hand in hand. Something can look good, but if it doesn't function good, it's kind of like, it's pretty to look at, but like, what am I gonna do with this? And if something looks good, or if something functions well, it probably means it also looks good, you know, because design at the end of the day is about type hierarchy. It's about, you know, understanding on a page what actions I can take and, you know, quickly. So distilling down complex systems into easy interfaces, and I find it very fun. I'm like, I love it. Investments can throw uncertainty because money from others will always be that conditional factor, always hanging overhead. Yeah, so I think I kind of hinted at it, but yes, I've worked for startups where I saw what happened when investor money started flowing in. Not only do I think funds were delegated in a way that maybe weren't long-term thinking, like there were a lot of parties, things like that, which is important for morale, but you know, I understand because the startup was hiring people, so they wanted to make it fun and experiential. So, but at the end of the day, it's not like going to necessarily move the product forward towards a vision. And I find that from what I observed, when there were investors involved, they rushed timelines and made, you know, decisions that were kind of impersonal feeling. and it seemed like short-term thinking. I guess I'll summarize that. I saw when investment was introduced, it was very short-term mindset orientated, the decisions and actions that were being taken, and I'm having a very different approach where I'm thinking long-term, I'm thinking, you know, sustainably, pacing it out, and so I've kind of let go of this, you know, I'm not rushing myself, and I think that's where the best ideas come from, is when you have you give yourself time and grace to really think through ideas. Capital is needed in order to hire people. Can't ignore that fact. But I think if you can work on an idea with as little, you know, debt, it's good. It's good. Because I feel like debt will introduce a different kind of stress than just, you know, figuring out what feedback you're getting from your customers. Yeah, when you get big, you don't want to be headline news of misuse. Yeah, when you do due diligence, when you have to sell your company because you're yeah, whatever. You definitely, I've seen, you know, it's interesting how funds get delegated in some of these companies. I recently listened to a Y Combinator podcast where the founder of Figma was talking, and he, you know, if you hear about how their product was developed, they didn't take on, I mean, obviously he was well connected, and, you know, he's a very personable man and very smart, and his goal was really to figure out what people wanted and listen to that, rather than, I want to make money, I want to drive a Lambo, da 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 da. You know, so I think it's interesting when you observe companies where the money, why they take on money. I understand there's practical reasons. There are legitimate reasons you would seek funding, but then sometimes it's like an ego game. Yeah, finding a way to keep capital flowing is going to be essential in the long term. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think what we're seeing now, I mean, me is a testament to this, is that you can now build with far less capital, far less. I did an analysis of my platform and what the cost would have been just to develop my initial product launch, and it would have cost me, you know, $150,000 to, you know, up to 300K. That's huge. That me as a single person, I'm able to do that because I wouldn't have, you know, 5 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to create what I'm creating because I just financially wouldn't have been able to afford it. So I think that's actually a really important, fun realization to have with this phase we're in, where people are now able to develop software just from, you know, prompts. I think it's really powerful. And I'm, you know, hopefully I can share more of that. The cost side is very fun to realize, because if I had hired a team to develop my app, you know, it would have taken at least one developer, you know, I don't know how many, probably a product manager, copywriter, brand designer, you know, front end, back end developer, all of that. And to realize that we now have the power to leverage all these products that are coming out, that we can, you know, no code platforms I also tried, and it's just a very exciting time to dip toes into being a founder. Like it's incredible. And I really encourage everyone to just, if you have an idea, just think about what tutorial you could watch, what you could try and build yourself. I'm not saying this from a perspective where I need to control everything with my product. Like I'm totally, if I had capital, I would be happy to delegate. But being able to be so intimately close to not only the culture of secondhand retail and the whole buyer experience, I've also been on the seller experience. So I feel like this business I'm intimately connected to. And so I feel like that has really allowed me to feel a sense of confidence and a sense of purpose in building my product, because I truly feel like I'm supposed to be building this. You are supposed to be building whatever you are, you know, really meant to build. Everyone, I think, has an innate interest. I feel like this is mine, you know, finding the balance of passion for what you're doing and keeping enough money. Yeah, to not be stressed. Yeah, so that definitely has come up a lot for me. So I'm pretty fortunate that as I have a background in freelance design, so I've been able to take on projects. Sometimes a project will be a week, sometimes it'll be a month, sometimes it'll be one project and then the client, you know, wants to work on another and it turns into 6 months or into however many months. So that has definitely been important to have a flexible income, flexible schedule, I'll say, in order to work on the business side. It's very important. I know a lot of people are able to work a day job and then work on their project at night or in the morning. I haven't had to do that necessarily. I've been approaching it by working for a few months, getting a bunch of savings, and then working on my project. That's how I've been doing it. And that's actually, I think, why I've been, you know, more and more able to work on my project over the years. Like, I originally had this idea in 2017 and I just didn't have, I was on a hamster wheel and I just didn't have the capacity to work on it. But that's why I had to relocate. I had to lower my living costs. I had to make lifestyle changes in order to do this. I give you a big kudos for adventuring out yourself to learn, and now you can also adjust, adapt on your own skills. Yes, so that's actually a great point, because, you know, it is less scary. Like, the more you learn actual like skill sets, the less scary not having income becomes, because you're developing skills that other people will want, that you can now utilize. Like, you can, like, now I know it was scary that I wasn't at a job full-time, but now I can show this asset, this tech platform, and be like, hey, look at what I can do. I can build this. And even if this company goes completely sideways, even if I tomorrow decide I hate it, don't want anything to do with it, which I don't think is gonna happen, even if I just, you know, take a break, being able to just sustain the costs, like, that's something I haven't talked about, is how much it actually costs to sustain a platform that is a mix between eBay and Pinterest. Surprisingly not that expensive. I think my actual back-end costs and like domain hosting and stuff, it's like under $200 a month. And for what I'm doing, I think that's very reasonable. You know, there's a lot of cheaper configurations. You can actually start with free configurations. That's what I did for a full year. All my configurations were free. So I was in the, like, from day 0 learning phase, and I was able to actually work with a like free tier of backend. And now I'm starting to invest more because I feel more confident, and I'm stabilizing again my like foundation. And my website is actually built for scale. So I could have like 1 billion people visit it today and it would be able to scale up, because it's provisioned for that. At I think a very reasonable price. I'm kind of a tech outsider technically. I'm not in the tech world. You know, just out here kind of freestyle, you know, platform building. And I think it's interesting to just notice that you don't have to be in the tech scene necessarily. You don't have to wear a hoodie and, you know, you can just go after it. I think that's another thing. It's like, you don't have to fit into the stereotype of what you think a founder is, what, you know, whatever. You don't have to be in a certain geographical location. You know, we can all be building from wherever we are. I think that's also very empowering. Obviously, funding is a daily like worry. I will say I'm not gonna shy away from that. It's a reality. When the time comes, you can use software as a service. Right now, my app is built pretty traditionally. It has, you know, my own custom backend, my own custom database structure, my own front end, all of that, and I self-manage it. I'm not automating the management of my software. But at what point are we going to actually have these companies like base 44, what have you, where your entire software can be managed like from front end to back end to data provisioning, all of that. That's actually a question I've been asking myself is how much am I going to continue building in this like traditional app structure, where every single part of the like front end to back end to data is from a separate entity versus consolidated into one platform like that handles all of it. I've been debating. There is it's nice that I have full custom control over my app. You know, I'm not beholden to one company. So if that company were to go under or, you know, change leadership or anything, start charging more, I'm not beholden to that one platform. So it is I feel a bit safer that I have full control over my app. But I question, like, would this be easier to develop my product if it was automated through one of these platforms? But for my business in particular, I'm adding very bespoke, very custom user interfaces that no other app is doing. So for me, it makes more sense to customize my entire app. But if, you know, your app or your business idea doesn't need the level of customization, you know, one of these all one and done software development programs or products will definitely be advantageous. Another thing I've wondered if I can actually start being more serious about content creation. So on YouTube, you know, creating more tutorial videos. That would be a way for me to support myself. I know people have asked me for consultations, so I feel like that would be a very genuine way for me to ask for compensation, just for, you know, I think I have a fair amount of knowledge to share right now. But yeah, that's another avenue I haven't tapped into at all, for content creation to help self-fund, you know, me, which in proximity will self-fund my business. Customization for your application is a great idea. Using someone else's platform can be very limiting. Yes, that's true. I've found that, you know, I've briefly tried prompting into some of these more automated platform building platforms. And I found that it's true. It's more limited. These platforms really, they create user interfaces that already exist. They are pulling on libraries and, you know, data vectors and data sets of products that are already out there. So it's not really creating and innovating new UIs. So I think that's another important thing that we keep in mind is that yes, AI is automating software development, which is great for people who have previously never built software. That's incredible. And, you know, then what? We're able to, us as humans, we get to decide what comes next. We get to decide what's the next, you know, iteration of UI. And I feel like this is a very unique time because building software was expensive, it was slow, it was, you know, gatekeeping people from me who don't necessarily assimilate into tech culture from contributing at a job. So I feel like software, it's amazing. I don't know how to be like polite about this, but I have worked now with some of the big the big APIs, the big platforms, and the way they don't normalize their data, the way they change API versions and completely make functionality out of sync. Like, it's impressive how some, and even I've been on platforms where some of the UI just isn't working, and these are like really big companies, and it really gives you a sense that these big platforms aren't being innovative because they're just too big. And I think that's a really inspiring perspective to know that there is so much room for improvement, so much room for optimization, so much room for experimentation, for new ideas. And I'm very passionate about trying out new UI, new experiences, because I can, because it's just me. I don't have to wait for permission. have an e-commerce store and the site we use is so limiting, but we don't have the resources to build our own. But what it sounds like you're saying is it's available to learn. Yeah, so you definitely can, software is becoming easier to build by the day. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if, tomorrow there's a new platform builder that just blows all of the other ones out of the water. That's what it feels like. It's like, there's just so many things coming out. There's people like me building platforms, and I think we're only going to see more and more exciting automation software builders. As we've already seen the past, thinking 2 years ago, like, it's incredible the amount of tools we now have. So yeah, and not only to build your own e-commerce platform, but also use automations. So even if it were like an established platform builder, being able to integrate AI automations, like kind of ad hoc, that's another approach. Not necessarily building the entire platform from scratch, but utilizing these other new automations as like a plugin or something. Not necessarily a plugin, but like that kind of configuration. Yeah, so I think there's going to be a lot of innovation in all sectors. We're seeing it. I don't know if anyone saw the OpenAI latest announcement. They were interestingly focused on the medical industry, the healthcare industry. So there's definitely, there's so many opportunities to create new solutions in every single sector. A lot of business leaders are looking first to cut staff because they want more capital. But then there's people like me and people like you who are now springing up with our own, our own contributions to the whole software ecosystem. And so if you have a particular interest in finance or sales, and I'm seeing people who just simply automate email inbounds and outbounds for lawyers, and they're making so much money just from doing that, like that one niche touch point. So there's just so many opportunities. I mean, I'm going a little crazy by building my own platform maybe, but there's just so many people who are just solving one problem at a business, as a consultant, and that's totally valid as well. They're trying, but often the AI is more designed to increase their revenue, not improving user experience. Big companies are not motivated to innovate. Yeah, so that's, I think, what happens when companies get really big, and it's almost like, a catch-22. I can sympathize a bit with these companies where they have so much staff that they, maybe, I don't know. But then again, a lot of these companies have a lot of capital. So, it's just unfortunate when sometimes a company concentrates wealth, it's not the wealth isn't being redistributed to innovate. It's unfortunate. Companies, I think what forces them to want to innovate is competition. So they're seeing a competitor get more money and they're like, all right, we gotta automate, we gotta put AI, we gotta, we've seen, like, I actually saw Depop got rid of their listing fees. That shocked me. Since they're so big, that's actually an advantage, is that they could get rid of the listing fee because they have, other revenues like brand partnerships, ads. So that's like the one lever that these big companies have, is that they do have market share and they can lower costs. That's what Amazon did. Amazon stole market share by lowering costs and knew that they were going to take on a lot of, I don't know if they took on debt necessarily, but they were, not optimizing their revenue. They had a long-term mindset. This is why AI is the equalizing tool for entrepreneurs. Absolutely, absolutely. It's so exciting. It's so exciting. I know there's a lot of doom and gloom out there that we're all losing our jobs, but like, we're gaining tools to make our own jobs. That's my mindset. And, people don't like their jobs anyways. So like, we can just, if you want to be like, optimize pet grooming in your local community, and you can build a SaaS tool for that, do that. Like, there's so many, like, you don't even have to be like the next Meta. Like, you could just be solving genuine problems. And since now we are all empowered to, I'm getting really excited, sorry. Now that we have our own agency to build software, I'm very optimistic that more and more problems are going to be solved, because now we are all problem solvers individually, and we're not relying on a job. We're not concentrating, all the smart people go to this one company. I think that was so, I don't know, that was kind of not great for long-term thinking. Like, why are all the smart people going to a platform that sells ads at the end of the day? Because that's where all the capital was. But now we're in problem-solving mode. We're motivated to actually help people, people like me, who traditionally have, unfortunately been outsiders to tech. Not that I haven't tried. I've tried getting a job in tech. No one wanted to hire me, so so here we are. It's a very exciting time to be an entrepreneur. I know a lot of these podcasts, or a lot of these, heads of tech are saying it's never been a better time to be a founder. I agree with that sentiment. Oh, you own a small coffee roasting company. That's so exciting. Are you looking to optimize like your e-commerce situation with your coffee company? You were, but you're leaving and you're not looking to build that. Okay, that's fair. You will send me coffee to my business address? That's sweet. Oh, I would definitely drink it. I grind the beans and everything. When you say tax preparation, is that like, are you interested in building a software tool, or are you just more so consulting? I think this is a great example, coffee to taxes. Like, if we have one business idea, it doesn't mean we have to stick with that idea or that industry. I originally was in fashion, and then now I'm in tech. So I feel like that's a really good mindset to have too, is that just because you're working in a certain domain, those skills can be transferred. And I think that's a really fun mindset to have as well. And it's always cool when people, it's just proof that you don't have to be beholden to one business idea, one sector. Especially when you start learning software, those skills can transfer into any industry. I think that's what's really exciting too, is just learning software opens every door, essentially. And I feel like the software tech ecosystem was so gatekept. I'll admit, I tried getting a job in tech. No tech company wanted to hire me. It was very sad and very, it really hurt my feelings at the time. But now I'm thankful that I've kind of had to fight for it a little bit. My interest hasn't waned. So, I think that builds a different kind of confidence rather than a padded tech salary, necessarily. You're partnering with a local tax firm to learn and build client base, and then moving and starting your own firm. That's super exciting. Congratulations. Wow. Very cool. Would love to have custom software app to help clients file taxes. I support this idea because the current tax filing softwares are predatory, to put it in my opinion. I think they're predatory. You're going to emphasize the corporate small business side. Oh, that's so nice. That's fantastic. That makes me so happy. That's so amazing. See, this is what I'm talking about. There's just so, I think we're going to see so much innovation and so many problems solved with this new dynamic of software being democratized. And to me, that's just so exciting. Same, tech world for companies is very saturated in my opinion. That's why we say we stay away from internet. Predatory is exactly what they are like. Yes, I'm glad that, that's how obvious the problem is, that we haven't even discussed this previously. We both came to the same conclusion. Yeah, and it's unfortunate that and then didn't they buy Mint as well? Mint was an app that helped people track their finances, and they took away that ability, which to me feels a little sinister, honestly. It feels sinister. Yeah. So I'm very excited that that's a domain you're going after, because personally, I think there's a huge, huge expansive horizon to explore with that. Very exciting. That's very cool. And if you find that you lose passion in that, you can always go to another sector. So yeah, filing taxes especially. So I've personally been freelance for, I guess, a decade now, and filing taxes at the beginning of my freelance career was comedically like unsupported. I guess I was freelancing at a time when it was more rare, and now it's kind of, it's almost like it's very normalized, very popular now. And it's been interesting to see how these softwares have changed throughout the years to support freelancers. And I'm like, whoa, where was this functionality? Like, was the way I filed the previous year actually accurate? Because now it's like, I feel like I'm being more supported. So it's kind of funny. You're in it for the money? Okay. There's definitely money to be made. That's the thing too. I feel like, I sometimes struggle with, I'm tackling a problem that helps, conserve environmental resources, but it's not necessarily like a very direct, clean cut, needed problem solve. And I feel like that is also kind of tricky, because it's like my company is optional, it's not a necessity necessarily. So that's actually another thing too. I think, who's to say, maybe I should tackle a more direct problem in order to generate money. That might be a way to support myself as well. But I think it's exciting that there's room for all types of businesses now to spring up. You can almost make more money by filing correctly than you can working. Yeah, I mean, keeping your keep. My direction is towards the elderly, not so fortunate financially, and areas that do not have the opportunity to have the tech that most others do. Yeah, absolutely. So bringing tech to markets or audiences, demographics that are currently being underserved is kind of what I take from that. I think that's a huge opportunity that a lot of people are zeroing in on, is injecting tech into non-technical companies or non-technical businesses and helping them boost sales, helping them optimize their supply chain or their outreach or management, what have you. That's definitely a huge, that's actually, I think, what a lot of people are talking about when they're talking about AI automation or AI software, is not necessarily creating this out of this world futuristic to the moon experience, but it's like going up to like, hey, the local mom and pop shop and being like, your website is from 1999, how can I click a button and boop, you have a new website. A lot of people are doing that, which is also very exciting. I think we're gonna look back even a year from now and be like, wow, there are so many new companies, new softwares, businesses are making more money. That's actually a huge motivator for me as well, is that, not necessarily enriching myself, but helping small business owners and local communities generate income for themselves. And that's more sustainable long-term for our economy. It's long-term thinking. That's a huge motivator for me as well, because vintage resellers are currently, they're beholden to all these platforms, and they're kind of scattered. And, my mindset when I'm creating all of these user flows, all of these interfaces, is how can I help this specific shop owner, this specific person, this specific segment of business owners. And I think that has really helped me innovate, just knowing that I know who's currently being underserved. I think that's a really interesting and fun perspective to work off of when building these software platforms. Not necessarily like one problem you're tackling, but knowing that there is a current underserved market for whatever it might be. It might be something more nebulous than like sending an automated email. You know what I mean? Building a company shouldn't be this scary thing. I think it's an actually very exciting thing. I'm trying to demystify that by doing things like these, Q&A sessions, and hopefully I can. I might have to take a break, like a week, to develop and film and script and output a tutorial or something, because I'm not in a financial bind right now, but I want to keep it that way. So I'm toying with the idea of figuring out, what people maybe want to hear from me, from my particular experience that I can share. But this has been, really, I hope, helpful for you. It's been helpful for me too, to understand what people want to learn about. So having said that, I think I am going to wind down the live. Is your business address on your YouTube profile? It is not. I think my email is, though. If you would like to email me, Jessie, I would love to exchange emails. And I think it's on my profile. Forgive me, I have not been on this YouTube account in a while. I just sporadically came on this live, to be honest. If you can bottle up your enthusiasm, I think it could cause more interest. What roast level do I like? So I actually have been drinking a honey roast. So kind of a medium. Medium is, not too much, not too little, just right. I love a medium roast. I like it to be a little bitter, but not too bitter. Thank you for being here with me. This was super fun, and honestly, you had all these questions have been fantastic. Columbia honey, I love that. That's fantastic. Feel free to email me, please. If my email isn't currently on my profile after this live, I'll double check to make sure it's on there. Oh, great chatting with you as well. This was very fun, and I feel very inspired to chat with you again. Thank you for being here, and these questions were fantastic, and I feel really inspired, and I hope you do too. Take care, and until next time.